Fisherman's Post. More fishing.
It's never been easier to get on the water with Academy Sports and Outdoors. Stop by your local Academy store or online at academy.com today and shop great gear from fishing's top brands like Lew's, Zebco, Abu Garcia, Shimano, and more. Hey everyone, before we get started, wanted to make you aware of an audio issue that we had with this episode. Probably the first 7 minutes and 50 seconds or so, we had a device connectivity problem that we didn't catch until post, but the interview was so good that we just wanted to continue to produce this episode, even with a little bit of rough audio. So if you can't handle it, fast forward to 7 minutes and 53 seconds or so, and that is the meat of the show, the interview. The audio from there on out is good, and if you do that, more than likely you're going to skip our Marine Warehouse ad, but make sure you go support Marine Warehouse Center for all your boating needs, repairs, maintenance, all that kind of stuff. All right, guys, thank you so much, and now here we go, back to the episode.
Hello and welcome to the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast Series. This episode is titled Spring Preparations for Getting Underway, and I'm going to be talking to Captain Scott Collins of Tow Wrightsville Beach and newly added Tow Crystal Coast, and we've got a bunch of topics to talk about. We're going to talk about the main problems he sees with boaters in the springtime out on the water and how to avoid them, the main problems he sees with boaters at the ramp and how to avoid them, and then we're going to move to float plans, some cruising information, and then we're going to have a radio talk. So, we're basically going to set you up for another boating season a la Tow Wrightsville Beach, Tow Crystal Coast. My name is Gary Hurley of Fisherman's Post. And Fisherman's Post has been serving the saltwater fishing community since 2003. We've been bringing you fishing reports, fishing information, fishing tournaments, fishing schools, and now, in this latest and greatest chapter, the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast Series. And it's in this Saltwater Podcast Series that we reach out to our captain and guide friends from up and down the North Carolina coast and ask them to share with us their insights, their knowledge, on how to catch more fish more often. And then we hope that talk and that confidence just gets you out on the water and spending more time with family and friends more often on the water. And I am joined this episode, just as I am every episode, with my partner, my podcast partner, Billy Thorpe of Co-Pilot Studio, a podcast studio offering podcast services for hire. And Billy, it's good to be talking to you again.
Gary, good to see you, man. How have you been doing since the last episode?
Been doing good,
Good, staying busy.
Man, that's how I'm wired, man. If I seem casual on a podcast, it's manufactured, man. I am hustling all the time.
If Gary isn't moving, the world is about over. Oh, man, good to see you, dude. It's good to be back in the studio, in the seat, talking about fishing, talking about boating. Really boating. I'm excited.
Yeah, man, this is good information. I mean, we've been doing a couple of sort of off-fishing topics. They've been well received, and, Tow Scott has seen a lot. And so I can't imagine he's not going to give a lot of helpful information to our audience out there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, what are we going to next, Gary? I usually tell people how to watch and how to listen, but we've retired that segment because I guess got bored of it.
Right. It didn't work.
If you don't know how to watch or listen by now, then too bad.
Subscribe. We'll wrap it up with subscribe, but we're not going to put a slide up there and telling you all the places you can watch it and listen to it.
And some people don't know, but it's free to subscribe. I had someone the other day is like, man, I would subscribe, but I don't want to pay for something else. I'm like, nah, man, it's free. Like, it's a free podcast. So some people don't know that, but to hit subscribe is free. Just
if they want to pay to subscribe?
No. If they just hit subscribe or follow on their app. Now, if they insist, then sure, we'll send them a link.
All right.
Send them a monthly invoice. Oh, man.
Well, it is free in part because of our generous sponsor. Let's thank that generous sponsor.
All right, here we go.
Hey, it's Robbie with Marine Warehouse Center in Wilmington and Charleston. We are headquarters for Repair Custom Boats. These center consoles are handmade in Washington, North Carolina, and are custom designed for fishing and family fun on the water. Right now, we have several models in stock, and build times on the custom orders are around 5 months. These boats are custom built to fit your needs, from the seating, the tops, the leaning posts, and the live wells. You design the entire layout of your boat. Come by and see for yourself why they're one of the fastest growing boat builders in the country.
That music, dude.
Every time.
Does it every time.
The boat shots are great. I mean, those boat shots make me want to get on the water. They make me want to look into that boat. but then you end it with that music, and every time
You're just like, man, this is good.
just go right now. Forget Cito, Scott.
You know what,
Let's
Scott?
get out on the water.
It's great knowing you, man. See ya. Oh, man, too much fun.
Fish photo.
All right, we got Blake Boyd with a couple of flounder caught on a Z-Man paddle tail while fishing there in the Topsail area. Good looking fish there, Gary. Good looking fish.
Good looking fish. Good looking fish that were released, unless somehow I got that photo back in September of 2020, which could be, but I don't think so. Maybe,
There's
but I
a
don't think
50-50 chance that's in someone's... Well, never mind. Whatever. Let's move on.
Well, look, we're gonna challenge your production and value here. I need you to bring a slide up on the screen.
Oh, what are you talking about? Which one? The Buy Me a Coffee one?
That's it, man.
Let's see. Buy Me a Coffee. Here we go. What is this, Gary? You want to tell them?
No, I want you to tell them. That's the deal. That's the arrangement. I'm setting you up.
I love it. So for you guys who don't know, buymeacoffee.com/fisherman's post is a way that you can support the podcast as a listener, as a viewer. And it's a really cool platform that they've created just so people can support their favorite creators. So if we are one of your favorite creators, content creators, feel free to support us, buy us a cup of coffee. Gary's getting a little old. He can't drink coffee late when we do these, but, he'll drink it during the day.
Buy me a decaf coffee.
We should change that to buy me a decaf. I'm going to change it to buy me a boat. It didn't work out. I begged for a boat for almost 50 episodes. It didn't work.
It's not going to work.
So coffee is going well, man. We've had some people support us, so we really appreciate it.
We have.
Yeah.
We love everyone
It's
that
been
comes
cool.
in.
Absolutely.
Hey, Billy, we're going to transition to our guests now. We've done our setup material, and this is where I say Billy's best takeaway is certainly a feature we're going to keep on. And so after I have my conversation with Cito Scott about the issues he sees, especially in the springtime with the new boating season, then I'm coming back to you for Billy's best takeaway.
I'll be ready.
But for now, let's bring our guest on. Let's bring on the guest talent, and I'm talking about Capt and Scott Collins, Tow Wrightsville Beach, Tow Crystal Coast. Spring preparations for getting underway. We got a lot to talk about. How you doing, Scott?
Busy, man. Busy. Just like you, Gary. Always busy.
You are always busy. I agree. Man, running around. You got a lot more water to cover now that you added in Crystal Coast on the umbrella. Happy for you guys. And so here today we're going to be talking about the main issues you see on the water in the springtime. Both on the boat, maybe at the ramp. What people can do to avoid them, maybe some other boat checks that you think are important for people to run through before beginning another season. And then I think you got some information for us on float plans, some cruising stuff, and then, just a little bit of a radio primer is what I have in my notes. Is that your understanding?
Yeah. I got my notes ready to go, man.
Well, before we get to that, it is tradition on the podcast to ask 2 questions. And the first question, Scott Collins, is why should we listen to what you have to say about on-the-water safety?
Well, I think just the 20 years alone with Cito is enough to understand what goes on out of the water and take my advice. In addition to that, I served in the Coast Guard for 6 years. I've been on multiple research vessels from here to Puerto Rico to Bermuda to the Cape Fear. I worked at Cape Fear Community College for about 8 months. So I've got some extensive time on the water. Licensed with 100-ton masters and a towing endorsement, obviously.
Man, that is a solid resume, Billy. I'm going to proceed
Solid.
with the podcast. I think he's passed question number 1.
He's granted permission.
And I'm going to go ahead and apologize, Scott, for question number 2, because I like to get creative, but I did not get creative with you. I did not get creative at all. In fact, I'm going to kind of identify something. At the bottom of your emails that you send out, you like to include a quote. Will you please tell me what that quote is?
Yeah, it's the sea always finds what you did wrong. And it's true. You leave a loose line on the deck someplace and, you get into rough seas, the sea's going to find that loose line and it's going to show you that you did something wrong. Or, if you decide to take the wrong path through a creek, going to find some redfish or something like that. And I'm not speaking from experience on my own part, but other people going too fast through skinny water that they don't know. Sea finds what you did wrong.
Well, that's all great and everything, but that isn't where this question was going. The quote you have at the bottom of your email says, "The sea finds everything you did wrong." And I just wanted to let you know that as the English teacher I am in my other life, you do have a typo in that quote. I didn't know if you knew that. And so The actual Francis Drake quote isn't the sea finds everything you did wrong. It's the sea finds out everything you did wrong. So you being a man of attention to detail, I'm going to be looking for that change being made in future emails going out. Deal?
Okay, well, should I just take it out of italics then? Because that would be legit, right? Mr. English professor, who I did have the honor
Italics
to
has
be
nothing
taught
to do
by.
with quoting. I mean, I appreciate your enthusiasm. And I had something in here about another famous typo, but yours isn't really a typo, but the name Google came from a typo. It was actually a misspelling of the word Google, and which is a 1 followed by, 100 zeros. But now we're really starting to bore. Scott Collins, it is springtime. Boat traffic, as I'm sure you're seeing, is increasing exponentially as the weather gets warm, the water gets warmer. From your perspective, from your 20 years, how about it, man? Give me a little rundown of the main issues you see for boaters out on the water starting out the season. You know, we'll just work through them. And if you have some insight in how that issue could have been avoided, I think both points would be pertinent.
Okay, well, the majority of jobs we see in the first bluebird days of the year are bad gas. Okay, people leave their fuel in their tanks for so long, and it just gums up their ejectors, their jets on their carburetors. And a simple, winterization of the boat before you put it up is a solution to that, or a simple service before you put it in the water is a solution to that as well. Another thing too is the batteries. The batteries tend to die out, over the wintertime if it hasn't been used in 4 to 5 months. And just checking those battery levels and understanding what the battery longevity is on a boat. You get to where you're cruising and anchoring up, turn the battery off or switch it over to a second battery. So that way you always have one battery that's already ready and fully charged to go.
Man, I think this might be a good time to give us some insight. I believe we had this conversation, not today, but when we were sort of fleshing this idea out. Was it you that was telling me, hey, man, most people on the water don't understand the difference between battery 1 and battery 2, and when you use battery 1 and when you best are use battery 2, or when you put the battery switch to use both batteries? How about it, man? Help us out.
All right. Well, I mean, it's a manufacturer. It's different with every manufacturer and every wiring of people's boats. But generally, when you've got 2 batteries on your boat, you want to have one battery, we'll call it battery number 1, on 1 when you start the boat and go cruising to wherever you go to. Then when you arrive at where you're going to anchor up or fish, switch it over to battery 2 so you can use your accessories like your radio, your GPS, your live well, or what have you. And so what that does is it enables you to have that fresh battery number 1, ready to go when you're ready to take off.
So I know that a boat might have 1 battery or 2 batteries rigged differently, but usually when you have 2 batteries on the boat, aren't they different types of marine batteries actually?
Not necessarily. When you generally receive a boat from a manufacturer, you're going to have the same battery for battery 1 and the same battery for battery 2. The differential batteries would be for if you had a trolling motor and it required more, voltage. That's where you would have a different battery setup.
And when is it that I would set it to run off of both batteries?
Well, that's probably your last ditch resort. If you're drained all the way down, then you can switch over to both. If you think of it as like 2 buckets of water, if you're running both buckets of water at the same time, they're both going down. Okay. And the charging aspect of it doesn't go as fast if it was just 1 bucket going up. So if you can understand that voltage level is going down at the same time, and then when you go to try to start it, you have nothing left in your batteries to start the boat.
Hey, so now I'm going to circle back to the gas question. So, of course, ideally we winterize, ideally we service. Man, if we just forgot about it and we're going, is there any gas treatment that can sort of cheat it? Or no, man, gas treatment ain't going to cheat it. It's only going to help.
I don't know, man. That's like a witch's brew kind of thing. I don't know of too many mechanics that are going to say, yes, this will solve your problem. You won't have to worry about your gas going bad. I mean, there are a number of products out there that you can add. I personally put Stay-Bil in my tank. If I know it's going to be sat up, with all my motors, like weed eaters, lawnmowers and stuff like that. Non-ethanol fuel is supposed to be better for the entire fuel system. It won't break down the I don't know, the synthetic materials in the tanks, the hoses, and so forth and so on. But the sniff test is the best thing you do. You pop the cap on your gas can and smell it, and if it smells more like varnish than it does like gasoline, don't run the boat.
Okay. I like that. I like that tip. All right. So from CETO's perspective, you get calls in the springtime, bad gas. You get calls about batteries. What are a couple other calls that you typically get more so in the springtime?
Forgetting to put your plug in. That is one of the number one things when the boats sink at the ramp is people launch their boat. They forget to put the plug in. They go park the trailer, and then they come back, and the back end of the boat is underwater. Man, you got to walk around your boat and make sure that plug was put in. It's just too easy to forget. I see that, but it's just too easy to not just take a gander, before you drop that thing in the water.
How many of those you think you see in the springtime, or how many of those you think you see in a year if you were to take a guess?
Well, more often in the springtime than in the summertime. But in the spring, we had one last week. That was the first one of the year. We've only really had, I'd say, maybe 3 good days of going out on the water. It's been warm enough, but it's not going to be the last one.
Man, interesting. The old plug is a culprit every time.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got? Let's go. Let's just keep on going with springtime calls that CETO sees.
Your waterways have changed since the last time that you've been out there. I guarantee it, no matter where you boat. If you haven't been on your boat or in an area that you normally go to in 4 months, there are different bars, not only just from nature moving the bars around, but we've had a lot of dredging in this area alone. Up in Topsail. Topsail is completely different now. You definitely want to tread lightly when you go through that area. Carolina Beach is going through a dredging process right now as well. So especially when you go out, the last hydrographic survey I saw was good, but you still definitely want to obviously check conditions before you go out and, tread lightly, go slow. Anytime you're in an unfamiliar area, go through that area slow, because you can get yourself out of trouble easier if you're going slow versus, going too fast, and it's safer too.
So I think what I hear you saying is unfamiliar, but even familiar waters should be treated like unfamiliar. Some of them at least should be treated as unfamiliar waters when you're coming out after the winter season.
Sure. Yeah. That's a safety aspect there. Only hit something, only go as fast as you want to hit something. That's what one of my captain's jokes about. And it's true, man. You don't have to be, hammer down the whole time you're running around out there. It burns a lot of gas, and it's not safe, especially in your crowded areas like we have here in the Wrightsville Beach area in particular.
Yeah, man. And I like the point it was made before we started the podcast that, you can't just trust the lines on your machines, the tracks on your machines from last year, because as you've just pointed out, things change. And, especially in some of those areas you've identified. I love that advice. I could easily be guilty of that. All right. What else we see? What else from CETO's perspective?
Back to what you were just saying, those lines on your GPS, that's a good reference. Okay. You don't drive the boat staring at your GPS, going through the waterway. That's just a reference for you. But to segue to another topic on running your boat in unfamiliar or familiar areas is don't think that the guy in front of you definitely knows where he's going and to follow him. He might lead you right into trouble.
All right. Don't follow the guy in front of you, because he could leave you in trouble. This is good. We're getting some CETO from the CETO's perspective, the problems they see on the water. What else, man?
Well, where do you want to go from here? We can talk about, being aware of your surroundings.
Okay.
And this is pretty important. It's maintaining a good lookout, so you know where the other boaters are and that how fast they're going. But more importantly, maintaining a good lookout and being aware of your surroundings will help you to get help to you. I can't tell you how many times people call me and they don't have any clue where they are. And that just scares the bejesus out of me, because what if somebody was in a medical emergency and they were trying to tell you where they were and they have no idea? Well, I can't even start to go looking for you if I don't know a general idea. Not I turned left at this tree and then I turned right into the creek. It's just, that scares me, man, when people don't know where they are.
Being aware of your surroundings. I'm trying to go from the notes too. I'm trying to help you out and follow what we've got here, man. And so I think we'll go. I'm going to circle you back to boat checks because that was the notes that I got. Anything else on boat checks, and then we're going to start, I guess, moving into more of a float plan situation.
Okay. Well, let's see. We went over fuel and batteries. You definitely want to make sure your fuel's topped off before you go out on a trip. Your battery levels are sufficient. Oil as well. You know, if you're running a 2-stroke, you got to make sure you brought 2-stroke or have enough 2-stroke. 4-strokes don't generally lose oil unless there's a mechanical problem. Trim and tilt's not too important, but you know, you want to make sure your trim and tilt works. Bilge pumps, you know, take a gander in your bilge, make sure that pump is working. Most bilge pumps have a float switch to where you can manually lift up, or a button on the sides where it'll manually pump out. And also a lot of boats have manual switches on the console that you can energize to see if the bilge pump is actually functioning. Life jackets, all your necessities, your throwables, the safety stuff. Make sure your cell phone's charged. A lot of times I get people calling, you got to hurry, man. My cell phone's getting ready to die. I'm here. Look for me over there. And then beep, done. And now I don't know really where they are.
Hey, for vessel checks, I'm guessing, I know that the Coast Guard does them. Is that something that CETO does, or CETO encourages people to do the Coast Guard check?
I mean, I always encourage the Coast Guard auxiliary safety checks. You can go online to USCGA.com and you can schedule an appointment, or you can they actually also have schedules too on the calendar dates where they will let you know what marina they will be in, and you can go and have a free check with the auxiliary. They're not going to give you a ticket. They're going to go over your boat and tell you what looks good, what looks bad, and say you should definitely probably get this looked at.
And you suggest that once a year. I mean, is there any reason not to do it once a year?
No. I mean, I think once is fine, because then you'll have a general idea of what yourself can look for on every trip that you get underway with.
All right. What about float plan? I guess that's that heading where we were talking about be aware of your surroundings, and I follow that logic very easily. What else you got for me? And you can continue to talk inshore, and then we can move offshore.
Okay. Well, you know, offshore, you definitely want to let somebody know that you're going. Okay. Where you're going, coordinates. Okay. Not just like a name of a place. What inlet you're leaving out of, what time you're coming back. That way, you know, if you're not back at a certain time, we get a lot of calls in the summertime for us to make calls out on the radio for, I don't know, different people to see if we can make contact with them because they haven't heard. And I mean, our radios are pretty strong here, but you know, after I receive that call and put some calls out and don't get an answer, then I refer them to the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard will go ahead and start making calls out. So having someone knowing where you're going, what time you're going to be back, and where you're going, that's important. Near shore or inshore, it isn't as important to necessarily tell somebody where you're going. It doesn't hurt, but more or less, you know, telling people that you're going out and when you're coming back.
So as far as the offshore plan, I want to be, there's a couple of bottom fishermen that I want to be on their call list so that they can call me and give me the coordinates of where they're going to be that day. Is that a service I can provide?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
I don't know if I'm making it right anyway. I think I'm attempting a bad joke.
That's what I thought. I wanted to make sure you weren't
attempting a bad joke. I know I'm attempting a bad joke. I don't think that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely do that. Get on the list with Rick Croson and ask him, you know, if you can be his float plan buddy.
And then he can call me and give me the exact coordinates of where he's headed. That's where I'm getting at.
Bingo,
exactly.
bingo.
It's a service I want to provide for free. That Fisherman's Post could provide for free to qualified captains. What else we got, man? I don't know the difference between cruising and float plan. I'm going to let you help me out with where we're headed.
Okay, well, the float plan is the plan for cruising. Cruising is cruising, you know, basically operating your vessel, knowing what a safe speed is, knowing how to reduce your wake and no wake zones. That's a big one. A lot of people coming through the no wake zone in Wrightsville Beach. Yeah, they slow down, but they leave their bow up and they're just plowing water. So they're actually making a worse wake than they did when they were on plane. And, you start seeing that, flicking the bird, yelling at people, and they're like, what? I'm going slow. But if the boat's not level, you're still pushing a wake.
So what is it that you're seeing? I mean, I know you're seeing the increased boat traffic just that everyone else is seeing on the water. Like, from your perspective, how have things changed here in the last, 5 years, 10 years? I don't even know how far I need to go back.
I mean, you really don't need to go back any further than last year. There was 370 million boats sold nationally in 2020, and the increase here was astronomical. And there's just more boats out there, and not necessarily everyone out on the water knows what they're doing. And I use the word ignorant. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Hurley, Professor Hurley, but you're lacking knowledge, and it's not a bad thing to lack the knowledge, but you definitely want to do your due diligence and to become more knowledgeable about what you're doing. Boating is fun, but it's not something to take lightly. There are dangers involved, and we have fatalities, injuries every year due to maintenance issues and or just not knowing that a boat doesn't have brakes. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, man. What about so with all this boat traffic out on the water, I mean, if I'm compelled to pass somebody, what's the suggestion you give me to like how to best go about passing someone in the ICW?
Well, so there's a legal way, and then there's the pedestrian way, like in a car, and people assume the same thing on the water. You pass on the right, and you drive right side, left side, but there is no traffic schemes in our general area. And you can't always assume that the person in front of you knows what the rules of the road are. And that is the topic, the rules on the waters. It's topicked as rules of the road. In a head-on meeting situation, which way do you go? And the best thing to do is to slow down. But if you can give some sort of indication, like turn your wheel to starboard if you are going to go to starboard, to let that boat know that's meeting you which way your intentions are going. We can go into whistle sounds and things like that, but you basically got to slow down. Don't try to go by someone fast. Make sure that they know you're coming. If you got to start yelling or honking your horn, just letting them know that you're coming past them is the best thing to do. And
I mean, I don't know. And now I'm in a creek and I'm pulling out into the ICW, and there's boats going both ways. Any suggestions there?
Well, I mean, the rules of the road specify that the vessel on the starboard side has the right of way, but how many people know that? Which boat knows that, or do either one know that? Don't go hauling butt out into a junction. Slow down and wait for your time. Generally, you're probably going to have a lot of wake to deal with if you're in a crowded, junction like Mason's Inlet or Mason Shin Creek in the ICW. Those are highly trafficked areas, and be as safe as possible. Don't be a daredevil and try to gun it across, in front of somebody.
The other one in your pre-show notes, man, you said you wanted to talk a little bit about marine radios, and I'm happy to have that conversation. I think that's an important conversation. Let's segue into that now.
Okay, so the marine radio's benefits nowadays are that if you had a problem, you could hail out on 16, which is the emergency distress channel only. It's not for radio checks, it's for emergency distress. And if you were to have a problem and somebody close by heard it, they can come over to you faster than, say, the Coast Guard or any other response vessels, including CETO. Cell phones are a great way for communicating, but they just don't have the ability to transmit to everybody in the vicinity. And so when I say emergency situations, if you were to fall down on your boat, hit your head and get knocked unconscious, does your wife know how to use the radio? Does she know how to turn it on? Does she know how to hit the mic and put it on 16 and what to say? And say, and where are you? That's another thing that, it bothers me, is that the people on the boat don't know how to call out for help if they are in help.
And to go back to your thing about know your surroundings, like even if the captain knows where you are or can describe where you are, how often is it that everyone on the boat, especially if you're just taking newbies out that don't have a boat themselves, could describe where they are on the water?
Sure, and that's a good thing too, is that maybe before you get underway, just maybe make that little speech to the people on board, say, hey, we're going out to have a good time, but make sure you keep an eye out for things, for stuff in the water, debris in the water, or, look what marker you're by, or if there's a particular house that catches your eye, remember it. We get more geographical, points that people give us that we're by the Octagon House by Carolina Beach. I know exactly where that's at. It's easy.
Is there a channel that CETO monitors all the time?
We always are on channel 16, and our working channel is channel 79. So basically, you would hail us on 16, and then we would shift you over to channel 79 and get some information from you. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get a cell phone number from you and call you on your cell phone, just because the conversation is a little more clear and you don't have to worry about anyone, quote unquote, stepping on your transmission.
And then is there still the automated radio check line
There's not
that CETO
an
provides?
automated radio check anymore. Nope. That was a contract through Maritel that Maritel had with the FCC, and they gave it a try, and now the FCC has taken those channels back. So I don't know if they're going to bring back an automated radio check, but if you do want to do a radio check, channel 13 is a working frequency. It's used for bridges. You can always contact the bridge, or you can contact CETO on channel 79, or you can call us on 16 and we'll shift you over to 79. And then you can ask me how I'm reading your transmission.
All right, I got one more radio question. This is going to show how uneducated I am, ignorant I am, and as in lacking knowledge. It seemed to me when I was setting up my new radio, I finally upgraded to a new radio last year, and I was setting it up, and they was trying to set up an MMSI number or something like that. Does that mean anything to you?
Yes. So the MMSI number is kind of like your social security number for your boat and yourself. So that if you were to hit the distress button on your radio, it automatically would come up to the Coast Guard as Gary Hurley, what kind of boat he has, registration number, and contact information. Now, the way that you set up your MMSI number or get assigned an MMSI number is through the Power Squadron online. It's I don't remember. Well, I could probably look it up real quick, but the Power Squadron is the one that would assign you your MMSI number.
Okay, so I would reach out to them first online, and then I'm setting up my MMSI on my marine radio.
That's correct.
All right. Hey, I think we're at the end of the notes, but that doesn't necessarily mean this conversation is over. As we've been talking, man, what have I not set you up to say? What have we not covered that you would like to get out here at the beginning of another, what's sure to be very busy season on the water?
Weather checks. If you guys are going offshore, you got to know your weather. Not just the sea state or the wind state, but the potential for thunderstorms. There are so many good Doppler apps on your phone that you can pull up and, look at to determine, even if you're inshore, if you're anchored up over in a cove someplace, pull that Doppler up. Oh, honey, the clouds are looking dark over there. Pull the app up. If that, blob is starting to move your way, it's time to go.
Man, I'm going to give you an opportunity now to tell us a little bit more about CETO. CETO has an app. What are some of the features I can enjoy on the CETO app?
So the CETO app is now focusing more on membership benefits, i.e. renewing your membership. Or if you need help, you can simply hit the help button. And when I say help, if you're, broken down or aground, and it'll connect you directly to dispatch. And it will also relay the coordinates if you have that set on your app.
All right. And then here, this is certainly hasn't been an advertisement, but if I give you an opportunity now just to say, what is the benefit of what are the main benefits of being a CETO member? What do you got for me?
It's not going to cost you a lot of money to get back home. If you have a problem, it's free.
All right. Hey, that's going to be it. Again, I'll ask one more time. Any more final thoughts, Scott, before we say goodbye? And I thank you for your time.
Be safe.
I will. I'm with you. I think the message is coming through. And again, with all the new boats on the water, I hope everyone takes that stance. What we're heading into a very busy year is be safe. Thank you for that message. Scott, it's great to talk to you, man.
You too, Gary, Billy. Hope to see you all soon.
Have a good night.
You too.
Man, oh man. I
Be
learned
safe,
so much,
Billy.
man. Be safe.
That can't be your best takeaway. I'm taking
No.
that away.
No, my best takeaway is the funniest thing I heard was like, hit something go as fast as you want to hit something.
Right? That was good. I agree.
I'm like, yeah, man, that's a good rule. Like, how quick to hit something, and then just water changes, the waterways change, dredging, all that. You never, and for me, who goes on other people's boats because I don't have one, I never ask any of those questions, and sometimes people may or may not even go over safety stuff. So I'll be asking those questions like, hey man, how do I work your radio if you fall off the boat or we smack into something and you get knocked out? Because I wouldn't know how to do that.
Yeah, man, I feel comfortable on the boat, but I'll probably do a few things differently after this conversation one-on-one with Scott. I can't. I mean, why not be safe, especially like us when we got kids? We're usually doing family trips on the Hurley boat, not fishing trips. You know.
That's true, man.
I do those trips with captains who say cast over there. The Hurley boat is more for the sandbarring.
Gary, for some of you guys don't know Gary, he's got a nice collection of unused fishing gear because he uses everyone else.
I use them once in a while.
On his dock, he just throws it out there as he's drinking his morning coffee. Anyway, man, that was my best takeaway was not gas it. Don't gas it. Go slow.
Yeah, man, I like the delivery of that. And I think Cito, man, they do a lot of community interaction. So they depend on, for lack of a better word, clever ways to deliver a message just so it does resonate because, that's what has to happen. It has to resonate. They can't just hear it, but they have to really hear it and then, cause a change in action.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Good information. Hopefully people will listen to this. Hopefully they just don't go, oh, that's not about fishing because this is really about getting to go the next day.
And this is going to be a good segue. And that winterization and that spring service, man, who would be a better person to visit than
Marine Warehouse Center?
Warehouse Center.
Nailed it.
Right.
Nailed it.
We love those guys. Parts, service, new boats, selling old boats, selling you a used boat. If it involves boats, Marine Warehouse Center, they want your business. They want to take care of you.
Yep. And they got awesome hats and shirts, which I support.
You do.
Anything else, Gary?
That's it, man.
All right. We'll see you next episode.
Fisherman's